All right. I am trying out YouTube live stream for the first time. I've never done this before, and so I'm seeing if I can make it work. It's just using Google Hangout right now. So um, let's see if we'll get any viewers. Currently, there's not any viewers, but let's see. Hi, cool. Looks like we have a couple viewers. I'm doing a YouTube live stream for the first time through Google Hangouts, and I just want to experiment with this format and see if I can learn something from it. I wanted to particularly share with you some interesting ideas I have and get your feedback. So for the last 4.5 years, I've been conducting hundreds of hour to 2 hour long video interviews with returned Mormon missionaries. And recently, I've had a few other project ideas, and I would love to hear your ideas about them. So, one is creating a database of video interviews with people about each health condition. So, you can watch hours of videos about cerebral palsy or about any other health condition. We also started offering a free video life history service called Lifey. If you go to lifey.org, lifey.org, you can click on Browse Lifeys, and there's about a dozen or so browsable video life histories, and that's a service we started offering. So I've never done this before. I see that there's a half dozen or so viewers right now. I was wondering if you could just comment and let me know that you're there, or maybe ask a question or something. Yeah, so I would love to field any questions that anyone might have. So I'm looking for for comments. Let's see if I comment, if you can see it. So I just commented, hey. If I can just see if this is working, the interaction, if you can just comment on the video, that would be cool. Let's see. I don't see any comments. Sorry. It probably isn't very interesting for you. I'm just trying to figure this out right now to see how to work this. Sorry for this being so boring. I don't see any comments yet. See if I go to, sorry about that. So a little bit about myself, if you're curious. So I started this YouTube channel called Prepare to Serve about 4.5 years ago. My wife and I just felt inspired to work on this project. I quit my job. It was kind of a leap of faith. And right now I'm working on a few really exciting projects. One of them is called Lifey. I haven't mentioned this to many people, but we're working on a really exciting mobile app called Lifey. And the idea is a video social network of sorts that allows you to browse to any group of people that you'd want to learn from, ask them any question, and then browse a bunch of 60-second or less video responses to any questions that you might have. And I am super, super excited to check that out. Let's see. I see a live chat. It wasn't showing up, but I just saw a couple comments. There we go. Let's see. Kool-Aid 668 is only for Mormons. I like people that try new things. Cool. From Duane. Cool. Nice to meet you. So Prepare to Serve, it has been kind of custom built to be a resource for Mormon future missionaries. So I don't know if you're LDS or Mormon, Kool-Aid 668, but often there's currently about 70,000 Mormon missionaries serving throughout the world, and they'll receive a mission call. They don't know where they're getting called to, but it will be somewhere in the world. Could be in the United States, could be in any country that accepts Christian missionaries. And So our resource is kind of custom built for pre-missionaries to get a feel for what to expect on their mission, and how to prepare for their mission, to help them start to get a head start on learning about the culture, the language, the food, mission prep, etc. What about other Christian denominations? Thank you for asking a question. This is helpful for me. If you can ask questions, I would love to do it kind of a Q&A format. That would make this easier for me. This is my first time doing a live stream. So currently I've only been doing video interviews with returned missionaries who are from the faith that I belong to, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, also known as Mormons. But we break down the videos into a lot of different segments so that if someone wants to learn about Bulgarian culture, they could access video interview snippets that we have with returned missionaries who served in Bulgaria. Or if they want to learn about, food in Africa, they could learn about food in any country in Africa where our missionaries have served. Now, I'm not like an official representative for the church at all. I'm just a recent Brigham Young University graduate who lives in Utah, got 3 little children. And this is just kind of a project that was born out of something I felt inspired to do and I felt passionate about. I don't view myself as an expert at all. I've been really just trying to figure out as I go. Yeah, let's see. I do think it would be cool to have video interviews with people from other Christian denominations, though. And yeah, we'd love to put up more content. It's been a long time since we've put up videos about Bulgaria, and I think we've only interviewed like 1 or 2 people who served in Bulgaria. And yeah, it's kind of hard because there's so many countries, and I'd love to put up new content about each country possible, but since I'm more or less a one-man band with some unpaid interns at Brigham University, I haven't been able to pump out tons of content. I'm actually going to be able to serve in 1.5 years. So pumped. Yvonne Shea, congrats. That is awesome. I don't think I have interviewed any returned missionary sister who has regretted serving. I know that missions can be tough and they're always hard work, but they're super duper rewarding and you learn a ton. And it's a wonderful experience. Let's see, Lara CK. Hi, everyone from Syria. Welcome. That's so cool that you're from Syria. I'd love to answer a couple questions. If you guys can, who are watching this, could post some more questions, I'd love to answer some questions. You knew some sisters at BYU who served there. I imagine you're talking about Bulgaria, I imagine, since I don't think we have any missionaries in Syria, though that would be really cool. All right, here we go. We've got a question from Kool-Aid 668. What do I think about atheists? That is a great question. Well, honestly, so I'm very much Christian, but I realize that is a lot because thank you, Eric. Welcome from Brazil. So to answer your question, Kool-Aid, I realized that while I'm Christian and I was born into the LDS faith, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I realized, I could have just as easily been born in like Eastern Europe or, another place, or in Scandinavia where maybe Christianity isn't quite as popular. And I could have had parents who are atheists. And so I respect atheists. I love atheists as I would anyone. Me personally, I have an extremely strong belief and faith in God. And the reason I have that belief and faith, the primary reason, is that I have said prayers and tested and have had spiritual experiences that can't be explained by any other means. So I think kind of the source of my testimony about God and his how God lives is because I've seen him answer prayers. I've felt I don't know if this phrase will confuse you all, but I felt something called the Holy Ghost or the Holy Spirit. Like I felt impressions, for example, where I felt strongly. I don't know if you've ever felt an experience where you felt a strong, like your intuition or something tell you to do something, and then you do it, and it has really good results. So for example, I have a friend. He's not Mormon by any means. We grew up from very different backgrounds. We were next door neighbors in New Hampshire, in the northeastern part of the United States. And he told me how he was laying on the couch one day and he felt super strongly he needed to go check on his little brother, who was only like 1 or 2 at the time. And he was just ignoring this feeling he had, but it just got stronger and stronger. And he went to go check on his little brother. And when he finally went and checked on him, he saw his little brother was heading right towards these like concrete stairs going down into their basement. He was riding on like a toy bicycle. And anyway, because he followed that impression, that feeling he had, he was able to grab his little brother right before he fell down the staircase, which could have been really bad riding the bicycle down those hard staircase. Anyway, so obviously he's not a member of my faith. He came from a family that had involvement in drugs and so forth, but he had a similar experience to a lot of experiences I've had where he felt impressed, a spiritual impression, if you will, to do something. And I felt and seen lots of little miracles in my life. When I've prayed sincerely to God for help, he's been there and he's helped me. Let's see, another question here from Yvonne. Okay, well, a question for me. What is the best way to deal with friends who are doubting the church and our members? That's a good question. Yeah, so I don't know that I have a perfect answer for that, but I think in almost any circumstance, it is good to listen to people, because I personally I like to ask for advice from people, but I don't really listen to them unless I'm not really interested in what they have to say until I know that they care about me and understand where I'm coming from. So we have an intern this semester at BYU, Brigham Young University in Utah, and he is not a member of the church. Most of our interns are, except for him. And he explained how he had some missionaries come over and talk with him about the Book of Mormon, about praying to God to know that Joseph Smith was called as a prophet. And it sounds like they didn't really take the time to listen and understand where he was coming from. He's from Spain. He grew up in a Catholic background. He has his own ways of believing, based on his life experiences and his family and so forth. And he didn't have a super positive experience with those missionaries because the missionaries didn't listen to him and they didn't seek to understand where he was coming from. And because of that, he didn't have as positive experience as he could have. It wasn't super uplifting. So I guess to answer your question, Yvonne, I would say that I would just listen, like be willing to listen and accept people who might be struggling in their testimony, and then just sincerely and openly and genuinely just share your testimony of things that you have experienced that have strengthened your testimony about God. And I've learned, people, they'll, if there's a member of the church who's struggling with their testimony, I feel like one of the best ways to support them is to love them, to listen to them, to show them kindness. And then, if they ask you, if you have the kind of relationship where you're listening to them, being kind to them, then, maybe they'll ask you a question and you'll have an opportunity to share your testimony with them. But I know that it can be really hard for people who are less active members of the church if you treat them as just like a number or like someone to be fixed. People don't want to feel like they're a project to be fixed. They want to feel valuable no matter what their beliefs or behaviors. And I've heard several instances of people who have turned around their life and come back to activity in the church, when they felt fully accepted by their family and friends despite their behavior and what they chose to do. Let's see, Allie Walker. I just got my mission call to the Utah Ogden mission leaving March 8th. What is the most important thing I need to do to be ready? That is awesome. Well, congrats. No, we've interviewed a couple people who served in the Ogden mission. In fact, my wife and I were thinking of maybe moving to Ogden or to Orem, maybe when we can afford to get a home. I would say the most important thing to be ready, I'd say reading the Book of Mormon is pretty important because that's very central to the message you'll be teaching. And as a missionary, if you haven't read the Book of Mormon and you don't have a strong testimony of it being true, then it's kind of hard to teach other people about the Book of Mormon. So I would say reading the Book of Mormon would be good. You could go out on exchanges, accompany missionaries wherever you live, getting practice sharing the gospel. But I think another thing that I've heard is one of the best ways to be ready for a mission is just to strengthen your relationship with God. So to have spiritual experiences, to pray in faith, and have Heavenly Father answer your prayers and try to seek to serve His children, because that is kind of at the heart of it all, is that testimony. The other things don't matter too much. You could have everything else. You could have scriptures memorized. You could have read the Book of Mormon. You could have done all these things, but without the heart of your testimony in the work, I think it would be hard to be a effective, happy missionary. Great question, and congrats on your mission call. Let's see, from Kool-Aid 668, which parts of the U.S. is the most religious or Christian? From my perception, that would be the South, the southern states, like Alabama, Louisiana. Down south, people tend to be super friendly and welcoming and very, very Christian. Yeah, that's a good question. That seems to be the case mostly. Let's see, Yvonne Shea, my best friend is kind of falling out of the church. She's a new member and wants to serve a mission, but at the same time, she says she doesn't believe. She gets mad when I get invited to street teach. I do my best for her, but she just shuts me off. Yeah, let's see. I do that, but unless she decides to be close to God, she can't do it. Yeah. So that's a really tough situation, because when it comes to like someone's personal spiritual well-being, there's nothing we can do to force them. Like, they have to exercise faith and they have to discover for themselves. We can invite and we can listen to inspiration of what we can do to help them. But the only person that will be able to help them grow their testimony is them by exercising faith on their own. One thing I would say, though, just kind of anecdotally, I think if you can get someone who's struggling with their testimony to go with you and just serve people, I think that can have a really positive effect, because people, even if they're struggling with their testimony about the gospel of Jesus Christ or about the church, I think most people recognize that serving their fellow men is a good thing. And as they serve, it invites the Spirit into their life. So there's a few principles that I think, affect one's testimony. There's a lot of different variables, but I think one of the variables is having the Spirit in your life. And so if there's anything you can do with your friend to help your friend do service and do good things and invite the Spirit in your life. And in Galatians, it talks about the fruits of the Spirit being like love, peace, joy. If you can, for example, you could pray with your friend to know how to serve someone. That's been the fastest way I've been able to receive answers to prayers in Revelation, is to say a sincere prayer to God saying, no, dear Heavenly Father, dear God, how can I serve my family? How can I serve my neighborhood? And then you get an idea, and then you go with the idea, and you can see miracles that way. Because I really feel like the best way to strengthen your testimony is to become like what's the word? A partner with God. Like, if you have a relationship where you are receiving revelation an inspiration and acting on it and seeing him provide miracles to help you serve his children, then it's hard to deny a being who you trust in and rely on and who blesses you regularly. Let me see right here where I can look at other questions here. Let's see. The best thing is to pray for her and ask for a change in her heart. That's a great idea, Lara. Um, all right. Which parts of the US is the least Christian? Um, that's a good question. So I grew up in the Northeast in New Hampshire, and I kind of get the perception that the coastal areas, um, there might be more atheism, potentially. I mean, that's kind of a generalized statement. But I know that like in New Hampshire, it was a lot less Christian overall, kind of. It was more secular in the school systems and in politics and in everything. So, for example, in my gym class, this is kind of crazy, but they were playing Christmas music at Christmas time. We had a substitute teacher during gym, and the gym teacher, um, she turned off the Christmas music. Let's see. Sorry, maybe I'm getting this backwards. So basically, there was a really inappropriate song that was like violent, or I don't know, it was some sort of like rap song that had a pretty raunchy message. And no offense to any of you who watch rap who might be watching this live stream, but I told her, I'm like, hey, would it be okay to like change the channel on the radio? Like, maybe we could just flip on to another channel that has like Christmas music. This music kind of offends me. And anyway, she said how she was afraid to change it to Christmas music because she was afraid she might lose her job. And this was about a decade ago. I think you see more of that now than a decade ago, but it's more. It seems like there's more secularness in New England area, and I haven't been to the West Coast, but I think in the West Coast as well. Also, yeah. Anyway, oh, huge eyebrows. Prepare service, awesome. Thank you, Yvonne. I'm talking to elders about that. We can take her to lessons or street teaching or member service. It's a good idea. Lara CK, I can't see or hear anything, only the comments. I don't know what to say. If anyone else is having that problem, feel free to comment so Laura knows she's not alone. I assume it's working for the rest of you. Kool-Aid, let's see. Which states has the most Mormons? So from what I understand, Utah for sure is the state with the most Mormons. But then surrounding states like Idaho, Arizona, California, those states have a lot of members of the church. In New Hampshire, where I grew up, there was a high school of 2,000 students, and there's maybe 10 active members of the church at my high school. Good question. Yvonne, man, I'm stoked to hear you talk about it. It's 1 a.m. and there's church tomorrow. So cool. Well, you're welcome. Thank you, Yvonne. And I don't want to keep you up too late, but that's way cool. I'd be curious where you live, Yvonne. Are you in the States, or what state you're in? Carmine, have you served? Well, I guess if it's 1 a.m., you're probably in a different country, I'd imagine. Let's see, Carmine, have you served a mission? If so, where? Yes, I served my mission in the Argentina Neuquén mission, which is in the southern part of Argentina in the Patagonia, and it was wonderful. I got back about 6.5 years ago. My wife, Rebecca, served in the Philippines in the Baguio mission. And we got married a month after she got home from her mission. Got married in the Manti Temple in Utah. And now we have 3 little kiddos. And we're just living the dream, trying to make a small dent in the world by doing whatever we feel like we should do. Oh, Yvonne, I'm in Bulgaria. Good night. Good night. Well, awesome. Let's see. Huge eyebrows. We should have a Prepare to Serve channel in Spanish so we can give some advice to Spanish-speaking missionaries. That is great advice. I've actually done a couple interviews in Spanish since I speak Spanish from my mission. I've been able to interview a couple RMs who are native Spanish speakers about their missions, where it's all in Spanish. I have one on my desktop right now that I need to edit. Um, we so I This is kind of a random side note, but it's kind of cool or interesting. So I got this random extension to serve in a calling, to help engage young adults in online missionary work who live in Utah Valley. And one of the thing that I specifically felt inspired to do was to help set up 30 or 40 foreign language YouTube channels. So not many people at all. I imagine that none of you have even heard of this project. It's very much a new thing, but basically the idea is to have 30 or 40 different foreign language YouTube channels where returned missionaries or native members of the church who speak that language publish daily vlogs in that language. So let's say we set up the Russian channel. So the idea is that eventually we'll have it where there's a member of the church who speaks Russian who just publishes daily vlogs. It'll be several people who contribute to the channel. So we hold these YouTube service projects. In fact, if you were to go on YouTube and search YouTube LDS service projects, you'd see like a half-hour video of me talking about what it is. But anyway, we've set up about 14 different language channels, from Haitian to Haitian Creole to Luganda to Latvian, Russian, Mandarin, Spanish. And part of it, I don't know why I felt inspired to do this as a part of my calling, but I hope it will help to share the gospel online and to help also just be like a resource for members of the church who live in different countries where there aren't many members of the church, or if anyone is curious about Latter-day Saint beliefs or practices or doctrine, they can kind of learn in their own tongue or language. So right now, this semester, by the end of April, we're trying to have all of the 30 to 40 language channels set up with some starter content, 10 to 20 videos, video blogs. And then once they're set up, come next fall, we are planning on extending callings to one person per language channel, someone who speaks the language, who's a member of the church, who lives here in Utah Valley. And then they can hold like a service project every few weeks or every month where they pre-produce a bunch of short, 1 to 5 minute vlogs in that language that are then published daily. Anyway, so yeah, sorry, I'm a very talkative person. Let me look at some of these other questions here, comments. Lara, and I'll excuse myself because I have an exam tomorrow. Your prayers. God bless your heart and all the good things that you're doing for his name. Well, thank you, Lara. And thank you much for joining us. And I wish you good luck on your exam tomorrow. We'll send our prayers that way. Well, let's see. I would love to answer some questions. You can ask questions about anything that you want to. Huge eyebrows. I'll check it out. That's cool. Greetings from Nicaragua. Awesome. Un gusto. Un gusto conocerle. Huge eyebrows. That's way cool that you're in Nicaragua. This is really exciting for me. I've seen in our analytics that we have a lot of views that are outside of the United States, and it's neat to kind of be able to connect with at least a few of you. All right, here we go. Carmine Spirduto. Sorry if I pronounced it incorrectly. What is your greatest memory of your mission, and are you still in contact with any of the members that you became close to? Great. Wow, greatest memory of a mission. So I actually do have a mission interview on our Prepare to Serve channel under Argentina Neocan mission, where I shared some stories, some favorites. Let me think for just a second. There is one story that comes right to mind is just, I like it because it taught me that anything is possible with God. So basically, I'll try to summarize it because it could take me a while to share this story. But basically, I liked setting goals, and I still like setting ambitious goals to help motivate me. And I set a goal. So when you're a missionary, you have different goals that you set each week of like how many lessons you're going to teach, and you try to bring, a few people to church, and you can invite them to be baptized, things like that. One of my goals was to meet 100 new people and have a short lesson with them. We would call them new investigators, people who we've entered their home, we've taught them something about the gospel, and then we've set up a return appointment. We'd call those new investigators. So I set a goal to have 100 new investigators in 1 week. And I figured for anyone who served a mission, this will make more sense. If you haven't served a mission, pardon all the lingo that I might be using right now, but I'm like, man, this is going to be insane. I usually only have maybe 10 new investigators in a given week. And it's not like people in the part of Argentina where I served in the South, they weren't quite as open uh, as maybe in the North, as far as letting you just walk in their door. You might knock an entire block and only get let into one home. Anyway, I set that goal. And then preparation day, I cut it off shortly and started working. Instead of starting working from like 6 to 9 p.m., I left early at like 1 or 2 p.m. And then each day of the week, I had exchange with different missionaries in our zone. Because I figured my companion, I wasn't confident he'd want to like run door to door with me for a week. But I thought I could, handpick different missionaries in our zone, and I could go to different areas every day and just run door to door, knocking like crazy, running in, giving a 5 to 10, 15-minute lesson, and then scheduling a return appointment. Anyway, so many crazy things happened that week. It was bizarre. So Monday started off great. I think we entered into, about 10 homes or so. And then Tuesday, I was terribly sick. I ate like an uncooked potato and then some fish. I'm not sure what made me sick, but I had really, really bad diarrhea and was super ridiculously uncomfortable. And it was cold outside, and I wasn't wearing a suit coat. It was like windy and cloudy and cold, and I was miserable. Uh, and we had a very unproductive evening. Like, not many people let us in, and I just got home when it was time to go back to the apartment. And I curled up in a ball in my sleeping bag and just conked out. Anyway, the week goes on. Friday, we have an extremely productive day where we were able to go to a pretty lower income neighborhood that was maybe more dangerous, but we got into a lot of homes. A lot of people in that neighborhood were very open. And Saturday was pretty good. Anyway, it got to the point where we had 90 of the 100. Our goal was 90 investigators, or our goal was to get 100 investigators. And we had about 90 that we found Monday through Saturday. And we just had lots of crazy experiences. And Sunday came around, and I thought, oh, this is going to be a piece of cake. All these families are home on Sunday. Anyway, so after church, we knelt down and we prayed, like, where should we go to find some people who are willing to listen to us? And we felt like we should go to this specific street, like this intersection. We went there, and then we felt like we should go to these specific homes. And we actually we entered three, this was 6.5 years ago, but if I remember correctly, we entered 3 homes in a row and found like an additional 4 new investigators or so. It was either 4 or 6. Anyway, and I figured, wow, we've got the rest of the evening. This is going to be a piece of cake. So many families are home on Sunday, but nothing. And then one time, like when we were knocking that night, I just felt like, go knock that door. We went there, and we were able to enter and teach a husband and wife. And it got to the point where, so missionaries are supposed to be home in their apartment by 9 often in most missions, or 9:30 if you're in the middle of a teaching appointment. Then you can get home at 9:30. At least that's how it was in my mission and in most missions around the world. And anyway, it was getting really close. It got to like 8 p.m. and we had only one, uh I think we had to get 2 more, new investigators to reach our goal. Um, and we felt like we should go down this dirt path. It was super dark. We were in a super sketchy part of town in Comodoro Rivadavia, which is kind of like Sin City in Argentina. Um, anyway, we only had like 15 minutes left of the day. It was like 8:40 something. And we're like, we've got to start like booking it, like running home if we want to be home by 9. But we're like, we're so close to reaching our goal that we have like, you know, worked so hard to try to achieve this week. Let's just see if we can pull it off. And the next door, we were able to enter it. It was a little shack with a dirt floor, and someone that I had run into a couple times, but it had been months since we'd run into them, and we hadn't taught him with his wife present or with his daughter. And we went in there, and uh, we had a little, I think we sang them a song, shared with them a pamphlet, scheduled a time to come back. And anyway, we met our goal at exactly 8:59 p.m. So it was exactly, so we left the house, and I asked my companion, I'm like, hey, what time is it? And he says it's 8:59 p.m. And for anyone who served a mission, that's 1 minute before the week ended. We reached this goal. There was lots of other crazy and kind of cool things that happened that week. And the important part of that story isn't the numbers, but it taught me an extremely important lesson, which is this, that so I feel like I had righteous intentions in setting that goal. I knew it would bless Heavenly Father's children if we could share the gospel with more people. And I had this desire. I don't know if it was an inspired desire or what, but I felt like it would be good to set that goal, and I committed to it, and I worked like crazy. And it's just interesting that we could have reached that goal far before the end of the week, or we could have been way under that goal. But as it happened, we reached it exactly 1 minute before the end of a entire week of 24/7 work, essentially from about 10 a.m. until 9 p.m. every day. And the lesson it taught me has been super powerful, that often Heavenly Father doesn't fulfill his promises until the last possible moment. I don't know if any of you can comment if you've ever experienced that, but I think God likes to test our faith. Um, and that's how it was in that situation. Anyway, like I felt like it was a good decision. And there's that promise in the scriptures, in the Bible and Book of Mormon, that if you ask in faith, believing that you'll receive for something that is right, your prayer will be answered. And that's an extremely powerful, powerful promise that I'm still trying to exercise in my life. But um, so I asked in faith for me to be able to meet that goal, to be able to better serve God's children. And I was confident that with his help, he could make it possible. And my faith was tried up until a minute before the end of the week. And I know there's certain people who have promises. Um, for any of you who aren't members, there's things called like patriarchal blessings, or people will receive blessings from people who men who have the priesthood. They'll put their hands on them and they'll give them like a prayer, whatever they feel inspired to say. So say a bishop might give someone a blessing. Well, they'll promise them certain blessings. And some people don't see the blessings happen right away, and they might lose faith. But that experience just taught me, often God will help you right at the last moment. That also happened to me when I was hitting rock bottom back in 2006 or so, when I was starting going to school at Brigham Young University. I was trying to choose a major. In essence, I just felt very overwhelmed. I had studied tons of majors. I felt confused. I had received a few answers to prayer. I didn't know how it all worked together. And then one day I just went home to my mom and I just cried on her lap. I was like 16, I think, at the time. And I just expressed to her how I just felt completely alone, and I did not feel like I could go on any longer. And it's just interesting because that night I had a very sacred experience where I felt God's love um, in my life more than I've ever felt ever before. And um, it's just kind of cool. Like I've right at the last possible moment when I was about to give up, that's when Heavenly Father came through on his promise and he helped me and he let me know that he cares. And that often happens. Like we had a question earlier from Yvonne about her friend struggling with her testimony. And you know, I've had times where I've struggled, but I found that as long as I try to do my best and keep on doing what I know to be right, eventually Heavenly Father will come through and he will make up the differences where I'm short. If I really need his help, he will be there. And I just have a huge testimony of that principle. And setting high goals, God can, one of the most exciting things about being a Christian, in my opinion, is that you can set inspired goals. God can inspire you to know exactly what to do with your life. He can pinpoint you. I mean, you can just take a guess, but you can pray, research a bunch of options, and he can inspire you to do a certain thing that will be successful and will bless his children. And that's one of the most exciting things about my life is just feeling like Heavenly Father, I can go to him, receive direction, and then go after it like crazy, working super hard to try to serve his children, and good things happen. Let me look at some more questions here. Uh, what's your okay? So Kool-Aid, what can we do to win the culture war? So I'm not sure what exactly that is referring to. Maybe if you want to clarify that, Kool-Aid. Um, while you could clarify that, let me read some other questions here. Hey, haha, from Huge Eyebrows. Hey, haha, mucho gusto. 2 años parto a la misión. Awesome. How is it when you arrive to the MTC? So the MTC, I can only talk from my experience in the Provo MTC, but generally you're there from 2 to 3 weeks if you're speaking your native language and you're not learning a foreign language, or for maybe like 4 to 9 weeks if you're learning a foreign language. Maybe up to 12 weeks if you're learning a super hard language. But I mean, it's pretty similar to the mission in that you wake up at 6:30, exercise for a half hour, shower, eat food, study the scriptures for an hour by yourself. So you go to a classroom, you'll study scriptures like the Bible or Book of Mormon or Preach My Gospel. And then you'll have a companionship study for an hour where you talk with your companion about what you learned. Maybe language study for 15 or 30 minutes. And then you have classes where you study the language, study the lessons you'll be teaching people, have lunch, have devotionals on Sunday evenings. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty similar to the mission. It's a lot of people struggle at the MTC because they have to adapt to a completely new schedule that they're not used to. I don't know who saw this, but the church announced some changes to the missionary schedule, which is super exciting, which gives missionaries a lot more flexibility and ability to customize their schedule based on their needs, their mental and emotional needs, but also the needs of the culture, the people that they're serving amongst. So, for example, in cultures where they go to bed at midnight and wake up super late, missionaries might go to bed later and wake up later. And some mission presidents have already been doing that. But yeah, if you search LDS missionary schedule changes, new changes, there's some really cool things that were just announced like a week ago. Let me see. Secularism is destroying the West. I would agree with that statement. I I personally believe that what has made the like any country powerful is their reliance on God. And in particular, speaking where I live in the United States, I believe that our success doesn't come so much from programs or ideas or techniques, but there's a promise in the Book of Mormon that says that this is a covenant promised land, and that those who obey God on this land will be protected as a nation from harm. And there's some really cool promises about the United States, but there's also some warnings that if we turn away from God and don't obey the commandments, that we do not have that promise of protection. And I do kind of see that. I do see that happening. Secularism is growing. Atheism is growing. I have tons of respect for people who espouse those beliefs, but at the same time, I believe strongly that uh, God's the greatest partner you can have, and if you treat him well and like worship him and pay him the respect, he'll take care of you as a nation. But if you forget him and disobey the commandments, yeah, some really bad things could happen. And we know in like the book of Revelations, John, we learned that unfortunately we know that it's not like Christians are pessimists, but we know because of the scriptures and the prophecies in the scriptures that eventually things will go kind of south and some nasty things will happen because of wickedness. And let me see. Let's see. Carmine Spirito. I understand that terms I served a mini mission and then knocking on doors and sharing testimonies and new member lessons and preparing for a full-time mission. And it was seriously the best 2 weeks. Awesome. That's way cool. So mini missions, for those who don't know what a mini mission is, that's when you serve for a short period of time. Could be a couple weeks, could be a few weeks, could be a month, or a transfer, which is typically 6 weeks. And then you learn a lot, as Carmine mentioned here. You learn about what missionary work is like and all the kind of terms and lingo. Caleb, hey, thank you for your channel. I recently got my mission call to the Chile Concepcion South mission, and I was able to find more about my mission through this. Thank you so much again. Congrats, Kelby. That is so exciting. I think my friend Rob, I think he might have been one of the people we interviewed about the Concepcion South mission. I don't think we have many interviews, maybe one or two, but congrats. That is so exciting. I served in Argentina, just across the mountains, and the Chileans we met, they're like super friendly and they make amazing food. So you are in for a treat. Okay, Kool-Aid. To get back to your question, Kool-Aid 668, what can we do to win the culture war? So what do you mean? So do you mean just how there's kind of like strife in between? Okay, let me see what you say here. If you look at West Europe and how secularism dominates there, it is destroying Western civilization. Yeah, I agree with that. With the culture war, Kool-Aid, do you mean like how there's kind of some tension going on between different cultures? Is that kind of what you're referring to with the culture war? For example, right now I live in the United States and there's increased tensions. From my perception, there seems to be increased tensions between Native Americans and people from the Middle East or Mexicans, in part due to new regulations and laws. Thank you for your kind words, and awesome. Argentina is really cool. I have friends from there. Yeah, you're welcome. Argentina is really awesome. You'll love your mission. Heavenly Father definitely knows what he's doing when he inspires an apostle to assign you to a specific mission. And like most people will tell you, probably, it's about the people you meet. It's not so much the place that makes your mission and what makes it so important to you. So I'm sure you'll meet some amazing people in Chile who need the service that you can give to them and need your testimony. So great. Good luck on your mission there. So yeah, Kool-Aid, if you want to, feel free to ask to clarify exactly what you're trying to ask there with the culture war question. While I'm waiting for that, what other questions do people have? I would love to answer more questions. You leave in April, Kelly. That is great. And going to the Mexico MTC, that's cool. That's awesome. You get to go to the Mexico MTC and then to Chile. That is awesome. Yeah, you should totally, if you haven't yet, you should totally read the Book of Mormon prior. I don't know if you've read it cover to cover, but that's definitely something that'd be really good to do. before April. All right. Can someone throw out a question? A question that could be about anything, could be about prepare to serve, could be about other projects that we are doing. It could be about LDS beliefs or practices if you're not a member of the church, which a lot of our viewers, actually, I'd probably say probably about 95% of our viewers on the Prepare to Serve YouTube channel are not members of the church, are not Mormons. I think that's because we have so many videos about different cultures, foods, languages, that we reach a lot of people who aren't searching about LDS things. And yeah, but I'd be happy to answer any curiosities you might have about how YouTube works, YouTube channels or websites, or entrepreneurship, or I know, or about anything personal. I'd be happy to answer. The culture is basically secularism versus Christianity, the left versus the right. Okay, so the culture war, if I understand you correctly, Kool-Aid, is how do we win so that secularism does not drown out Christianity? At the moment, the left, the secularism, controls Hollywood, the music industry, and our education system. I'd agree with that. That's a good question. I think one of the best things we can do in general is just like there's so many macro major world challenges that are happening, and we can't fix them all, unfortunately. Um, and I think one of the best things that we can do in our individual lives to make a difference on all of the fronts, on the culture war versus secularism, is just to focus on being better Christians ourselves. Um, so, like you mentioned, secularism controls Hollywood and the music industry. So, in my life, I have really strong opinions about media and the effect that it has on our ability to feel God's influence in our life, to feel the Spirit. And I think one of the best things that we can do is to exemplify what Christianity really is. I think that's one of the best ways we can defend our religious freedoms, is to just be focused on being true Christians. There was a thought I heard from someone who supposedly had a near-death experience. I don't know whether or not they did or not, because I wasn't the person with the near-death experience. But what they said is that they had some sort of communication with Jesus, and in that interview, he or she asked Jesus, what should I do for the rest of my life? And supposedly in this experience, Jesus said, love who you're with. And so, I mean, there's so many different aspects of like Christian living and defending Christianity and sharing the gospel. But I think the most powerful aspect of all of that is just the two basic commandments that Christ gave when, the Pharisees or Sadducees, came up to him and they're like, what's the most important commandment? And he said, love God with all of your heart, love your neighbor as yourself. And so I really feel like, though it sounds kind of like a really simple solution to that question of the war going on between Christianity and secularism, I really do feel like that is the way to win the war, is focusing on those two commandments and just striving to be the best Christians we can be and loving who we're with. Great question. All right, Steve Roberts. I have not been to church in a long time. Local missionaries do not seem motivated, but your videos are inspiring and interesting. Not sure if I will go back. Thanks for commenting, Steve. Good to meet you. I'm Alex. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I mean, I could see how local missionaries, they're not always motivated. I mean, they're human beings prone to error, just as bishops are prone to error, or stake presidents. We're all prone to error. Even the apostles aren't perfect, despite how many good things they've done in their life. I'm glad that you enjoy the videos, that they're inspiring and interesting for you. And yeah, I don't know what to say to you. I would just invite you to just pray and seek to come close to God. You probably know just as well as I do how that can enrich your life. And help you be super excited about life, just feeling God's influence in your life. Let's see. Kool-Aid, also be political active and vote for people who will represent our values, because I think that Republicans are not very strong to stand up against the left. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I agree. I could go on a political rant, but I don't think I will. Other than I agree with you that I personally believe that one of the most important things about our elected officials are their values and their character, and that policies are kind of second to that. In part because of my belief that the promises in the scriptures are true, that if we as a nation follow God's commandments, then we will be prospered and protected by God. At least there's that promise specifically in the land, in this nation that I live in the Americas. And so I agree with you. Let's see. When do you report, Kelby? Why is okay? C. Purcell, Caden Cannon, welcome to the live stream. C. Purcell, why is anti-Mormonism rampant on the internet? Well, from a technical standpoint, I'll try to explain why it is so, why it seems to take off so much. So, one thing so there, in my perception and understanding, there are a lot more active Mormons and faithful Mormons and members of the church than those who are anti, or attacking the values or the leaders of the church, anti-Mormons, as we call them often. I think one of the reasons, it was social media. One of the challenges with social media is that it creates this perception of reality that may be true and that very well may be skewed. And that social media tends to give more voice to smaller groups that aren't the majority. Also on social media, on YouTube especially, anything that is contentious or highly debatable generates a lot of comments and a lot of click-throughs. So you'll see, if you go on YouTube and search LDS or Mormon or Book of Mormon or Joseph Smith, there's a lot of content that's good, but there's also a lot of content that is just very kind of like edgy or negative content. And I think it's because those tend to generate more clicks and more comments of people arguing. And those are signals to YouTube to rank a video higher if it gets a higher click-through rate, and if it gets more comments and more engagement and interaction. And yeah, it's hard. I love YouTube and I love Google, but when it comes to things that are where people share their opinions, I feel like it's really easy to get misinformation. And another thing that's kind of interesting about anti-Mormonism is I feel like, it's not so much a factual thing, like a debate about facts. I think it's more like there's certain things that you cannot understand about God unless you live the commandments and receive revelation from God. There's certain spiritual things that can only be understood spiritually. So those who are struggling with their testimony, I think one of the best ways to help them is to purify their life, to serve God, invite the Spirit in their life, and then understanding can come more easily, I think. Let's see other comments here from Kool-Aid 668. What do you think about Israel? What do you think about abortion and gays? All right, those are great questions. So about Israel, I unfortunately am not super well educated about Israel. So I don't really have a whole lot of commentary to say on that. What do I think about abortion and gays? Well, those are obviously very sensitive topics, and I hopefully won't offend anyone in whatever I say right now. But abortion, sorry, my throat's getting a little dry. I have 3 little children, and I just love children more than like anything or anyone in the world, really. I love my wife and my children so much. I can't speak for experiences that are kind of on the edge, like, or outlying experiences, really. I mean, I can't really speak I'm not like a woman who's pregnant. I don't really know a whole lot about that issue other than um, I believe that life, starts before a baby is born. My wife thinks I'm a little crazy for this belief, but I actually think that I remember when I was in my mother's womb and when I was born, I vaguely seem to remember that, which might seem kind of crazy, and maybe it is, but I I just don't think abortion's right. I feel like it's an evil practice in general. There might be exceptions to that if the mother's life is at stake. Yeah, I don't really, I don't know. That's a tough question, but I think in general, I'm very against it. About homosexuality, there's a even more sensitive topic, probably. Um, yeah, I mean, a God, we're all created differently. There are people who have different tendencies in a variety of domains. Some of those domains are in their sexual orientation, and I think we should respect and love each other and not judge each other, because we are all different. We all come from different backgrounds, biologically and environmentally. Um, and it's just in my mind, it's pretty clear. We just obey God's commandments. His commandments are explicit in saying that homosexual behavior, acting on homosexual feelings, is against the commandments. So I go along with that. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's tricky. I mean, I met someone who has a son or who's intersex, like someone who has XXY. So they're like have it's kind of an interesting domain. There's some people who have XXY who have some physical, like more masculine and more feminine traits and parts. And I don't know what to say. Those are things that I want to learn more about, but I'm more I don't really have a strong opinion about it other than I want to understand people who have firsthand experience and try to be respectful to them while still, withholding the commandments of God and my support for those. Um, so Caden, it looks like you asked the question, do you serve a mission? Where did you serve? So yes, I served a mission in Argentina and Neuquén. I answered this question just a little bit ago, but I'll just paraphrase. I served from 2008 to 2010 and got back. I got back like 6.5 years ago. And I've been doing this Prepare to Serve YouTube channel for about 4.5 years because it was something I felt inspired to work on. And right now we're working on 3 other extremely exciting projects that we've kind of felt inspired to pursue as well. One's about video interviews about health conditions. One's browsable video life histories. So if you go on YouTube and you search Lifey Health, or you can see the health interviews. We've done about 40 or so, including with that person who has an intersex child. There's a clip about that. That's very interesting. And then the video life histories, if you go to lifey.org and click, or lifey.org/people, you can see about a dozen or so browsable like video autobiographies. And we're really ramping up that service here in Provo, Utah. This semester, we have a team of 5 unpaid BYU interns who are helping me to kind of launch that and get off the ground. And then a Lifey app that I think is just going to be like Prepare to Serve, but not just about missions, about any life experience. And it will be a lot cooler and more informative and easy to browse than Prepare to Serve. So I'm super excited about that. Kool-Aid 668. Do you support lower taxes? That's a good question. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know enough about that to say much, other than I do think in general, I am in support of there being a smaller federal government. So I feel like if the federal government's involved in everything, then you have socialism, which can go down the path of communism, which I'm not in favor of. And so I'm in favor of, probably not having, probably having lower taxes and lower government involvement and less kind of social services. Did I vote in this election? I did vote in this election. I did not vote for the the current president. I voted for Evan McMullen. Yeah, give power to the states. I think that's a great idea. So I voted for Evan McMullen, who's LDS, and I actually had the chance to meet with him in person for about 40 minutes. We sat down and interviewed him about refugees. He served as a volunteer for the United Nations for about a year, and then he worked in the Middle East for about 10 years with the CIA, and he had a lot of really interesting insights. So if you were to go on YouTube and search Evan McMullen on refugees or something like that, my brother Adam and I went and interviewed him. Adam Balinski is his YouTube channel. And yeah, I just really, really liked him. And from my experience meeting with him, he was a very trustworthy, clean, outstanding guy. But all right, I would love to answer questions. Any other questions that anyone has right now? Feel free to ask away. I would love to answer any curiosities you might have. I will probably end the broadcast eventually here in the next little bit, but I would love to answer any other questions that you might have about any questions about myself or about Prepare to Serve or about our plans for the future or about what Mormon beliefs are or practices or anything about LDS missionary work, since I've interviewed a lot of returned missionaries. Are you going to Albania anytime soon? From Hydra's Fanboy. Welcome. Are you in Albania, Hydra's Fanboy? Do you live in Albania? Um, uh, I don't have any plans to go to Albania. I would love to. I have some friends, like I have friends Mirgan and Juliana Hoca from Albania. And I've interviewed about, I think, 4 or 5 returned missionaries, some guys who served in Albania, and it sounds like an awesome place to serve. But unfortunately, because of lack of resources, I probably won't be doing a whole lot of traveling anytime soon. Oh, cool. You are from Albania. Aussie. Is that Jay Panodet? So are you in Australia? All right, Caden Ken, I leave on my mission in April. What things do you think I should prepare myself to teach the gospel? I would say 2 things you could do. One would be read the Book of Mormon from cover to cover, study it, ponder, pray about it, and read and study Preach My Gospel and accompany the missionaries. And then anything you can do service related that will help strengthen your testimony and your relationship with God will just be huge for you on your mission. Adam Herring, welcome. Leaving for San Fernando Wednesday morning for my mission. Have any tips for me this next couple of days? I think, if I'm not mistaken, we only have like 1 or 2 interviews about San Fernando, maybe like an Allison and maybe another one. But I mean, you could watch their interviews. They have some good stuff to say. Let's see. Ooh, right before your mission, before you get set apart and leave on your mission, what you could do now. If anyone has any comments, they can feel free to comment what he could do. But I would just study the scriptures, read, preach my gospel, pray, try to receive revelation, inspiration, and just really strengthen your testimony about God, do service, spend time, valuable time with your loved ones and family. All right, let's see. A comment here from C. Purcell. Why do Mormons emphasize the only true church and maybe de-emphasize or de-emphasize other religious views and inspiration? Yeah, so I think one of our, I kind of feel like strengths and weaknesses often go hand in hand, and I agree that like myself, sometimes I'm not super I'm so excited to share my opinions and my beliefs that sometimes I don't listen to others as much as I should. And I think one of the no worries about the spelling, C. Purcell. Sorry, I've been talking for a while. My voice is getting a little dry. I think often what happens is, like, for example, missionaries, they have these goals where they are excited and enthused to share the gospel. They have looked forward to being a missionary for their entire life. And then when they go on their mission, they have leaders who help encourage them to be productive, to share the gospel with as many people as possible. And sometimes that passion can be interpreted as being rude or not being as respectful to other cultures or religions. And I can totally understand that. So me personally, I definitely have fallen into that category where instead of seeking to understand and learn about the individuals and where they're coming from and like testifying about things that are specifically custom tailored to them, I might just like jump in and share my testimony about a gospel principle that I feel strongly about without it having any context. And it's hard too because I personally don't have experience. Like I haven't been a member of other faiths or religions, and so it would be very kind of ignorant of me to not recognize that fact that you know I have no clue. I can't judge Catholicism fully. I've studied some things about Catholicism and Judaism. I've attended some church meetings for different faiths. I've sought to learn, but I really am not the expert on it. And the best I can do is ask questions and listen to my friends who are. But what I can testify about are things that I know that have blessed my life. I don't know if that answers your question, C. Purcell, but I do feel like that's a common challenge that people struggle with, um, members of the church especially, that we can come across as holier than thou if we're not careful, and that's not the way we want to come across at all. I think most people would agree with that, but alas, we're imperfect, as is everyone, and yeah, sometimes people get offended because we're so testifying that we are the only true church, and that stems from a strong belief that priesthood authority given by God from God is necessary in order to establish his church on the earth, and that priesthood authority was restored from God and his servants, divine messengers through the prophet Joseph Smith. And so, we believe that anyone from any religion can receive inspiration and guidance from God, which we think is marvelous. At the same time, we believe that the only church that was sanctioned to be able to perform baptisms, confirmations, and ordinances like that is that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And yeah, so I can understand that concern that you might have or your friends might have, but I mean, I've lived with the gospel and I've tested it, its promises, and I can testify that it's worked for me and brought tons of joy and happiness in my life to receive inspiration and revelation from God. Um, and while I could have received that not being a member of the church, I think there are some definite spiritual blessings I have received that I don't think I would have received if I was not a member of the Church of Jesus Christ. So, all right, we've got lots of questions here from Kool-Aid 668. These are great questions. Lots of intense questions here. What do I think about Islam? So I've met Muslims and studied and learned about them. And I think in general, they're awesome. Obviously, I'm not in support of extremism, but in general, those who I've met who are faithful Muslim adherents who are not extremists are seem to be great people. When I think about feminism, I don't really have a strong opinion on that, in that I haven't thought about it, and maybe because I'm not a girl, I haven't thought through it a whole lot. So I'd be interested in learning more about that. Um, Great advice, Caden. Maybe you could visit the temple, Adam. That is a great advice, because once you get set apart as a missionary, you won't probably be able to visit the temple very often at all. Identity politics, I'm not sure what that refers to exactly. What do you think about capitalism? I think capitalism in general is better than socialism and then communism. But I mean, capitalism, one of the big flaws, and one of the problems with giving people the freedom to do things is that it allows for human error and for selfishness. And I don't know, there's lots of situations in capitalism I don't like. I really like the idea of the law of consecration, if you've heard of that, if you're familiar with that LDS Christian term. But the idea of just everyone freely giving and freely receiving whatever they need, and being very open with their resources. What do I think about the death penalty? Uh, I honestly don't know. I I'm not sure how I feel about that exactly, and it would probably depend on the circumstance. I can say that I think there's better systems for helping to reform people who are locked up or who have committed crimes. I don't think our rates of helping people not come back to jails in the United States is, I don't think, are very good. Um, I think that's because we're maybe not addressing the core problem of helping the person change their life and giving them hope, instead of just punishing them without a good path for getting back on their feet. Because people who commit crimes are just people like you and I. I've met them on my mission. I've met them since my mission. And um, though people who have committed crimes have done something wrong, they're still just as much human beings as you and I are. Yeah, so I'm not sure how I feel about death penalty, really. All right, let's see. Caden Cannon, what are you studying at BYU? So I actually graduated from BYU about 3.5 years ago. I studied journalism. When I started going to BYU, I was almost 17 years old. I was starting a year early, and I felt really strongly that I needed to look into broadcast journalism. And so I took the prerequisites. I applied for that major, and yeah, and then it's been a long past 10 years since that of just trying to figure out what I should do with my life and my career. I feel like I have a pretty good feeling for that now. Um, I feel like the climax of my career um, will likely come in the form of a Lifey app that we are building right now, which will be like Prepare to Serve, but a lot better, more comprehensive, more easy to browse, more information. But it won't be just about the life experience of serving missions. It will be for any life experience. So if you want to learn about any health condition, any mission, any religion, any career, any company, if you want to learn from any group of individuals, the idea is to kind of have this video Wikipedia, if you will, where you can ask questions and get a bunch of 60-second or less video responses from a bunch of people who have firsthand experience, whatever you want to learn about. Um, so, um, oh, you're good, Kool-Aid. Any questions? Any other questions I can answer? I would love to answer any other questions before I lose my voice here. This has been a fun live stream, my first one I've ever done. If anyone has, do any of you have any suggestions of how I can improve Prepare to Serve, or how can I? Sorry, my throat's really dry. Or any suggestions on what would be a good format for these hangouts? If I do this again, would it be good to have kind of a Q&A format, kind of like we have? Caden, yeah, I'm very excited for this new project as well. It is so. What motivates me in my career and what I try to work on is my feelings, and I felt very strongly that I need to pursue this path towards Lifey. I felt like I should pursue this path on Prepare to Serve, and that's kind of branched out into a more general, broad, sweeping service that hopefully we'll have the version 1 up in the next month. Anyway, we've got a question here from, forgive me if I'm mispronouncing your name, if that's Lainey or Lonnie Williams. Why can't girls serve 2 years like the men? That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know why that is exactly. I think anyone who has served a mission would probably agree that missions are very very challenging. Um, Honestly, I think I'd be up for a year and a half mission, like women serve, um, just because it's a lot of hard work. But yeah, as far as why girls can't serve 2 years, why they had that, I'm not really sure the reasoning. I mean, I could speculate that it could be just to not have women have to go through such a hard, long experience, making it a tad more bearable for them. Missions are amazing and wonderful, but they're also extremely tiring and full time, more than anything I've ever experienced in my life. Um, I think the only thing that could compare to the difficulty of a mission would probably be motherhood. Having seen my wife with our 3 children under the age of 5, I think the only career that I've come across that is as hard as a mission or harder would be being a young mother who's taking care of children, feeding them, changing their diapers, they're crying, trying to teach them, and etc. But yeah, I'm sorry I don't have a better answer for you, Lainey or Lonnie. I'm not sure the answer to your question why they can't serve 2 years like men. I could just come up with speculation as to why it might be, why there could be circumstances when that would be ideal for a woman to come home a little bit earlier. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Um, yeah, I'd love to answer other questions. Keep the questions coming, and I'll try my best to answer them. So, Caden, are you going to BYU if you're still on the live stream? You asked if I was studying at BYU. I wonder if you're a BYU student. Or can people comment? Can you all just comment really quickly where you are from, like what country or what state? You're welcome, Lonnie or Lainey. Tried my best. Yeah, if you could just comment one word, like what country or state you're living in, I'd be curious to know. Um, Los Angeles, cool, awesome, way cool. I would love that weather in Los Angeles right now, and in Australia. I'm sure it's probably super hot there. New Zealand, it's probably super hot there as well. That is awesome. Um, My brother Adam, he actually just he used to work here in this office space. So we just gotten. I was working from home for the first 4 years of like self-employment or from like public libraries and stuff like that. I'd gotten this office about 6 months ago, and my brother Adam was working here with me, but he moved to American Samoa. I'm not sure exactly where that's located, but he's experiencing some of the heat that you're probably experiencing in Australia and New Zealand. Um, Yeah, I wonder how hot your high is in Australia. Um, let's see, Kool-Aid. Sorry, I don't mean to ignore your question. Do I want to build the wall? I don't know. I'm not an expert on immigration stuff, but I would just say uh, I've met a lot of immigrants and talked with a lot of return missionaries who have served Spanish-speaking missions where they've worked with immigrants, both legal immigrants and also illegal immigrants, who live like in Texas and California and stuff. And I personally don't think it's necessary to build a wall, but I'm not an expert on that issue. Um, yeah, uh, yeah, I'm not sure what the best solution is for that, but obviously, I think people should come here legally. Um, but yeah, that's just my personal opinion. So, Caden, I'm in Utah. I haven't decided what school I'll go to after my mission, but BYU is definitely somewhere I'm considering. My sister and brother-in-law are attending there now. That's awesome. I love BYU is great. Yeah, I went there for 2 years prior to my mission, and then I served my mission in Argentina, came back, went to a couple more years, and studied communication journalism, and it was great. So So I wish you the best in that. BYU is an awesome school, and I love that it's not a super secular school. I like you have prayers in classrooms, so like there's kind of like a gospel perspective added to the classrooms, which I really like. Um, whoa, Jay Panodet, in Australia, it's 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Wow. Today it was like 50 degrees in Utah, which was amazing. I went outside with our family. My wife and our three children all got the flu this last few days. I have not got the flu yet, luckily, but we went outside to get some fresh air, and it was sunny outside, and it was like in the 50s, and I went outside without a coat, and it felt amazing. I can't imagine 110 though. That sounds a little bit too amazing, a little bit too toasty outside. I'm curious, those who are on the live stream right now, the 6 active viewers right now, I'm curious who of you are members of the church and who of you are not members of the church, or how you came across the Prepare to Serve YouTube channel. Like if you subscribe to it, did you come across via a cultural or travel type video, or are you a pre-missionary who received a mission call? I'd be curious who hears. Okay, so it looks like Kool-Aid's not a member of the church. Um, so yeah, I know that Caden looks like is a member of the church, since you mentioned that you'll go on a mission. I'm curious, who else here in this live stream is a Mormon or isn't a Mormon? And for those who aren't Mormons, I'm kind of curious just like how you came across this YouTube channel. Because I know we reach a lot of people outside of the States and people who are not members of the church. And I'm just kind of curious, any feedback that you could give me. Looks like Jay Panadet and Lanny Williams are members of the church. Well, cool. Any questions that you could give me about anything? So, all right, ZUIT has a question. I don't really, I'm not an expert on that issue, so I don't really know how to address that question. But any questions that you guys can give to me about anything? Let's see. I searched on YouTube, living in a country. Okay, yes. We have lots of questions. Or do you remember what country? Was it like living in the Philippines, living in Norway, living in Germany? Cool. Very cool. I'd be curious to hear any where did I serve? So I answered this question a couple times. I'll just paraphrase it really quickly. I served in Argentina, Neuquén, and my wife served in the Philippines, Baguio mission. And we got married right after she got home from her mission, a month after. We knew each other a year prior to my mission. And yeah, we got married just over 5 years ago and have 3 little children. And are just living the dream, living in a fourplex in Provo, Utah, and just working on exciting projects. Let's see. Any other questions that you have about anything to do with Prepare to Serve or Lifey, like I was mentioning, or Lifey Health, or YouTube, or websites, or monetization, or online marketing stuff, or I don't know. I'm trying to think of anything that I could maybe share that would be helpful, or LDS beliefs or doctrines. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask questions. I've appreciated you joining in. This is exciting for me to do this. Let's see your question, Kool-Aid. How are the women? Do you mean like how's my wife and children? Or I'm just kind of curious what you mean by that question. Yeah, I don't know how to answer that question. Okay, let's see. ¿Cómo conociste la iglesia? Okay, so this is from Huge Eyebrows. I hope you don't mind me answering in English. But I was I was born into the church. My mom joined the church when she was her parents joined the church when she was 3 years old, living in New Hampshire. And and my father joined the church when he was about 26 years old, and then he served a mission in Texas, Dallas. So my father's a convert, my mom's parents are converts, and I grew up in the church, and our family's been active for my entire life. Um, how are the women in the countries you served? um, Thanks, huge eyebrows, for letting me answer it in English. Yeah, that's kind of a funny question, but yeah, I don't know how to answer that question. I mean, they're great people, obviously, as missionaries. So missionaries don't have any relationships of any sort, really, other than just being friends and teaching people. So you don't have any like dating relationships with women at all as a missionary. If you did, you'd get sent home early from your mission. So that's kind of how that works. So I'm glad you're getting a kick out of these responses. You're really putting me on my toes here with all these questions I haven't been expecting. It's been great. Um, Friends with benefits. I don't know what you mean by that question. You might have to paraphrase it or restate it so I can understand your question better. Any other questions, or anything I can do for any of you? Um, is there any resources for those who are members of the church? Is there any resource that you wish existed as far as missionary preparation, uh, videos, or mission preparation text resources or website stuff? Any ideas that you think would be cool to implement? I've had a lot of ideas of things to do on the Prepare to Serve website and YouTube channel, but mostly it's a one-man band, like my wife and I, and she takes care of the children all day, and so it's hard to do everything at once. Let's see. ¿Por qué a alguien lo regresarían temprano de la misión? All right. So the question is from Huge Eyebrows. If I understand your question correctly, it's why would someone come home early from the mission? So I've had the opportunity to interview about 12 or so early returned missionaries. So for those who aren't members of the church, a mission is typically 18 months if you're a female and 24 months if you're a male. But there's some amount, I'm not sure what the statistic is. I'm not sure if it's 10% or less than that, but there's quite a few people who return early from their mission for all sorts of different reasons. Someone might come home early from their mission because of health reasons. Could be physical health, like they need to have a surgery or they have back issues that are getting worse and worse. They might come home early because of emotional or mental health, like struggling with depression and anxiety that's just getting worse. They might come home early due to disobedience, so going against one of the mission rules. Like as Kool-Aid mentioned, how are the women in the countries you served? Like if someone went on a date or something, they would get sent home right away, probably. And there's very strict guidelines as missions, but yeah, those are some of the reasons people come home early from the mission. I know from those I've talked with, most people who came home early from their mission did not want to and felt ashamed of doing so. And then for, I don't know, a period of 6 or 12 months after their mission is kind of a hard transition, just because socially, at least here where I live in Utah, it's kind of the norm to serve a mission. And if you come home early, there might be some people who might say things or not know how to act, and they might say things that you feel uncomfortable with, or you might feel like you're letting people down or people are looking down on you, which isn't good. But I think that's kind of the reality of it, that it's kind of a hard transition. But I have several friends who came home early from a mission and they're doing great. And often prior to coming home from a mission, it's usually a process. Like usually they try to get better. For example, they try to improve their mental, emotional health or their physical health. But if it keeps on going on and it becomes dangerous to their health, then often mission presidents will encourage them to consider coming home early. Um, let's see, Caden Cannon, what advice would you give with dealing with companions that are hard to get along with? What blessings have you seen in your life from serving a mission? Great question. So I would say one of the best ways to get along with a companion, it's easy to say, it is harder to do, is to love them, serve them. So, for example, wash the dishes, make their bed, be kind to them, never yell at them, ask them questions, try to ask, maybe talk with them about things that they're interested in. One thing you'll notice as a missionary is that you want to be productive and live the ideal mission. At the same time, if you don't have unity with your companion, then you're not likely to be productive missionaries and to have the Spirit with you like you should. And so it's kind of like you really, really need to go for that unity. And people can tell, members and non-members, they can tell if you're not getting along with your missionary companion. People can see through that, and it's obvious to them, and it's hard to be an effective missionary if you don't get along. So it's super important. But yeah, I'd say serve them is probably the best way to learn to love them and help soften their hearts. And then just seek to, you might have to do some compromise. Like, I mean, you don't want to compromise with mission rules, but within mission rules, you'll want to try to go along with them. You'll realize that relationship and trust and unity is more important often than techniques and things. What blessings have I seen in my life from serving a mission? Lots of blessings. Let me think. So I had lots of spiritual experiences on my mission where I had opportunities to see miracles and tender mercies that strengthen my testimony. I also developed a strong work ethic. I think I had a strong work ethic before my mission, but I got a lot of good practice training myself to wake up early and work all day, day in and day out. And that has paid off a lot after the mission to help me get more work done. I think socially, I have developed social skills that are a lot better than before my mission. So I feel a lot more comfortable in a lot more situations than I would otherwise. And like, I feel like I can pretty much go up to anyone on the street and talk with them. And even if it's someone who is angry at me or does not agree with what I believe or what I'm doing, I feel like I can be okay with that. I think I've also learned to be okay with rejection. Anytime you do anything online, blogging, YouTubing, whatever, you face a lot of rejection, and you learn to have kind of a thick skin. And I have learned to have a thicker skin, which is good. I feel like I can still be super sensitive, but if someone opposes me or says something that I don't agree with, it doesn't really throw me for a loop very much. I can kind of like in the tree of life vision in First Nephi 8, where it talks about those who are eating of the fruit of the tree of life and partaking of the love of God, those who paid attention to those who are mocking them in the great and spacious building fell away. And yeah, when you're doing something online that reaches millions of people, you'll get all sorts of comments and messages that are nice, but you also get comments and messages that are unkind. And it's good to just be able to be selective in your listening and to be okay and accept yourself and kind of have confidence. So I think that confidence comes from working hard. From that experience, you just become more confident in yourself and your abilities to do great things. Well, any more questions? I think I'm going to end this live stream pretty quickly. I've got a bunch of other things I probably ought to get done this afternoon before I head home. But if anyone has any last questions, I would be happy to answer. I really appreciate the 3 viewers who are on right now who have stuck around here. But yeah, I've got a lot of. I need to edit a mission interview. I need to edit a couple kids coloring videos for my sister-in-law. I also need to edit some health interview stuff and send email to interns and all sorts of stuff. You're welcome. Thank you, Caden, for joining on this Google Hangout. And I'll probably do this again sometime. I found this to be kind of fun and eye-opening for me. And I appreciate all your questions, Kool-Aid 668. Yeah, you kept the conversation going. So thank you. And I don't know if Huge Eyebrows is still tuned in, or Jay Panodet, but thank you for watching. And if there's anything I can do for you, or Laney, if there's anything I can do for any of you, feel free to let me know. You can email me. I'm not very good at responding to all my emails because I am just so overwhelmed with things to do. But yeah, my email is alexbalinski@gmail. And if there's anything I can do for you, just let me know. And I hope you have an awesome day. So, all right, let me close out of this. All right, here we go. Take care, and thank you so much. Or wait, sorry, Lanny, do you have one more question? You said it's my cousin's question. If you have a question, hi, Mark, welcome. I'm just about to sign off, but if any of you have a last question you want to ask, you can ask right now. Sorry, Mark, I've been on this for, I don't know if it's been an hour or two, but I've got to get a few other things done today before I head home to my wife and children who have the flu. And so then we should probably do something like fun tonight since it's Saturday night. But Laney, Lonnie, do you have a question? You say my cousin's question. Okay, Mark, I'll answer your question. I'll answer any questions you have right now, but then I'm going to sign off after I'm done answering the questions. So are you going to do more missionary return videos? The answer is yes. The pace, we haven't been pumping out a ton regularly. We've been doing a few compilation videos to keep some regular content on the channel, but I do plan on doing more return missionary interviews. In fact, I have one right now, someone who served in Brazil that I'm partway through editing his interview. And I've got another half dozen on my desktop that I need to edit. And I do plan on kind of keeping an ongoing project. I might not be able to do it like new return missionary videos every single day. Part of that is because I'm working on another project called Lifey Health, where I interview people about health conditions, building that database. So if you go on YouTube and search Lifey Health, you can browse a bunch of questions. And if we're providing a new service called Lifey, which is free video autobiographies for people who come into our studio in Provo, Utah. And so we're focusing on getting that off the ground. So if you go to lifey.org, lifey.org, and then click on Browse Lifeys, you can see about a dozen life histories, including my own, and then some friends and family and other people who've come in. But that's something I feel strongly about, is that service. So we're trying to get that going. The goal being to offer it for thousands of people who live in Utah. And yeah, and then there's some other projects. We're building a Lifey app that I think is going to change the way, make it a lot easier for people to learn from others' experiences through video. I feel like it will be a better solution for pre-missionaries than the Prepare to Serve YouTube channel. It'll have more content crowdsourced from more people, and it'll be easier to browse and collect and follow things that you want to. But it won't be just for pre-missionaries. It'll be for anyone wanting to learn about anything from any other person from their life experience. So yeah, sorry, Lonnie, my cousin's question, I typed my question above. So I'm looking here, looking for a question. Sorry, while I scroll up, see if I can find your questions. I see where you said I am a member. New Zealand, thank you for answering. I'm looking here for a question, and for some reason, I am not seeing a question from you, Lonnie or Lanny. Um, I don't see the question. Could you re-ask the question and then I'll answer it, and then I'll probably have to log off after I answer the question. But I'd love to answer your cousin's question. If you could type it in really quickly. Oh wow, yeah, I looked and it looks like I've been on this for about an hour and 45 minutes or so. Or yeah, going on 2 hours. No wonder my voice is getting dry. One thing I'd be curious to hear for any of you who've watched some of our videos is just what kind of videos you like watching the most. So we upload videos about different culture, food, language, return missionary surveys where it gets kind of a bunch of random experiences. There's little testimony clips in their mission language, mission prep advice, stories. Oh, okay, cool. No worries. No worries. So, um, but I think I just lost my train of thought. Oh, I was just curious if any of you could give me that feedback really quickly. Any of you who have watched any Prepare to Serve videos, of what videos you find the most interesting, or what videos you would like to see more of. We can do compilation videos. We can do more videos, where people share their stories. Like what videos do you find the most interesting? If you've seen our videos, I'm curious for any feedback you have about our videos and how we can improve. Culture from Mark. Cool. So you like learning about different cultures, I imagine, if I understand you correctly. Um, that is good to know. Those videos actually do pretty well as far as getting viewership as well. Any other feedback from any of you, of any questions that you like, or any content you'd like to see us put out in English or in any other language in the following months? Interviews with women are most interesting, so we could do more interviews with sisters. Any other feedback before I log off? Again, I appreciate you for joining here. And if you came on and want to, this hangout's been about an hour and 45 minutes or 2 hours long, so you can feel free to watch it. If you need anything from me, feel free to message me. If you want to be friends on Facebook, I am Alex Baugh on Facebook. I don't have a lot of time to message on Facebook back and forth, but if you want to be friends on Facebook, you could send me a Facebook friend request, and if you send me a message that helps me remember that you are on the stream, I could accept that. But I'm Alex BA on Facebook if you want to send me a request. And if you want to see any of the other projects I'm involved in, if you go to Prepare to Serve YouTube channel, on the sidebar, you can see other channels. And a lot of those are channels, other side projects I've done. If you're curious, you could subscribe to those and you'd see some make Alex great again. Thank you. Thank you, Kool-Aid. Well, cool. Well, I think unless anyone has any other questions, I think that I'm probably going to sign off. And yeah, thank you. Make, prepare, serve great again. Great advice. If there's anything I can do for you, just let me know. And I appreciate you. And I hope you have a wonderful day wherever in the world you are, that you go and serve someone and help feel God's influence in your life, and have a wonderful, healthy, happy week. All right. Thanks, and have a wonderful night. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.